Okay. As an advisory committee, I think we can advise that some on this committee might like it a different way.
Okay.
But in the end result is that it meets the criteria for that. And it's my opinion that whatever makes something work better and make sure that that business stays here and is successful, that's what I look at. Others here have a different idea and have more expertise than me, okay? But just to clarify that it meets as it is whoever designed it.
I want to correct you, Cliff.
All right.
We're not advisory. We are authoritative as a design review.
It says on there, right, even at the beginning of our things, it says we are an advisory committee.
Okay, so 1458.14, all new signage or alterations to signage within design review shall be required to receive approval of the application for design review unless otherwise noted in the
Oh,
schedule.
of course, of course.
Okay, so
But
be careful
yeah.
saying we're only advisory.
Well,
We're not.
it does say that too, but it also says what you said. Okay, thank you.
We're working on changing or
Right, and
not
that's
changing,
something what we're working on.
potentially changing.
Yes. Because that's vague to have it both ways. We'll have the wording the way it is there. Yes, thanks.
Okay, I will start. The colors of the sign, the letters of the sign are fine. I just have a problem with a sign when the letters go virtually side to side with no setback. I'm an architect, I look at proportions, and to me, the letters of the sign are disproportionately large to the size of the backboard.
Okay.
Now, I very quickly reduced one and put it on it. I didn't scale it to any particular scale.
Okay.
So that there's sign board here and sign board here.
End to end?
And then,
Right. And this is on a raceway, they're not just
yes,
letters as well, okay?
yeah, they're illuminated letters that plug onto a raceway. Understood.
Yeah, that was the question I think we also had is we had it proposed both ways to us, that it looked like it was just a regular sign, and it is, again, to clarify for everybody, they are backlit letters, correct? Okay.
So I don't know if it's a visual from the sign, but the letters are only 18 inches high, so a foot and 6 inches, so there is space around it. I even had our design team kind of take it and do what you did to see how it would look. Because the sign band height it's 3 feet and it's 19 feet long.
Yeah, it's, the sign board is 19 and your sign is 17.
Yes. So
I think it
Only
looks
like
better
an
if the
inch or
sign
so
is
on each side.
15 or 14 with 2 feet on each end rather than, you said the big letters like the O and the M are 18 inches high? What's the next size smaller than that, 16?
whatever, we can have them decide. Like, we probably could go to like 16.
I'm sure the manufacturer makes them in inch increments or 2-inch increments. I don't, again, if you narrow the sign, I don't know that you can still leave it 18 inches high or whether maybe it has to get slightly smaller. You know, the point is that that sign is almost overpowering for someone who's walking down the sidewalk. And the cars going down the road are going typically at 5 or 10 miles an hour, or they're stopped at the traffic light. So it doesn't have to be so big that you have to read it going 35 miles an hour.
Right.
Because cars aren't going 35 miles an hour. They're creeping through, they're stopped at the light, and the sign would be very legible if the letters were 16 inches high rather than 18 inches high, and fit more proportionally to the signboard.
Excuse me, are you talking about the capital letters being 16 or the lowercase?
The caps are 18 now.
Okay.
So I'm saying if the caps got reduced from 18 to 16,
Okay.
and then the length got reduced proportionally also, my opinion, it would look much better on that nice blue signboard than filling the entire signboard up with letters.
Does that make any sense to you?
Perfect sense.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So, so the larger letters will, you want them down to 16 and then probably reduce the length of the sign to about 14 feet. That'll give probably about 2 inches on the left or right in that blue space.
2 feet,
2 feet, sorry.
yeah. Somewhere in there. I don't know that it needs to be as small as what I did. Again, I just selected a reduction on the copy machine and copied it, cut it out, and taped it over the top. I didn't have an opportunity to do one more professionally than that, but that,
Any other questions for me? Because I can take this back to our customer and give them the recommendations for it and see if they want to push back, if they want to try and keep this based on being the code and see what that, they would like to do.
okay, fine.
I do have a question. Would you guys be okay with us getting that blue painted? We got, since that's just gonna be blue, is that okay for us to do now? Just because of weather, we have some warm days coming up. I was by there yesterday and saw they're working inside. And, you know, once this gets approved, if it's approved and we get this raceway in January, it'll be a little harder probably to paint that blue so we don't have to delay the customer. We can hang the sign any day of the year, but painting is obviously something different.
It's going to be 50 this weekend, you could paint it.
Exactly. We have a lot of painting on the schedule, so we already got the customer's approval to paint that, but I just wanted to make sure that wasn't part of this review, if you guys were okay, if you saw that painted blue now, while we wait on the final decision for the letters, the raceway that's going up.
I certainly don't have any problem. We should probably make a motion to approve the paint color and release you to do that.
I'll do that. I'll make a motion to approve the paint color and approval to paint that whenever you can.
Okay.
The background, that is, the blue, yes.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that item? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Manfred,
Yes.
Ms. Reedy,
Yes.
Mr. Hummel,
Yes.
Ms. Kane,
Yes.
Mr. Sodel.
Yes.
Okay.
Ma'am, did we get your name for the record?
Tanya, I'm sorry, Tanya Jefferson, with Glad Sign and Lighting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, second item, old business prospectus, approval of schedule.
Perspective is still trying to nail down a schedule, and I tried to get them to meet with city council this coming Monday, but that doesn't work for their schedule, so they're asking to meet with city council in January, either the second week or the third week. So it'd be either the committee meeting or the finance meeting. I'm waiting for the president of council to
The
respond.
16th or the 22nd, I think are the
Yes,
dates, okay.
16 and 22, yes. I'm waiting for president of council to respond.
Okay,
So that would be the first,
so item 3 will be that date.
correct, yeah, that'll be January.
Okay,
And they would like to start with city council first, before they went to the public. so they don't get bogged down.
I agree with that. So once that date's established, then they can fill the rest in.
Correct. They are showing a Zoom meeting, but I've asked them to show up in person for the first meeting. Number 4, actually. No, I guess it is number 3, I'm sorry, number 3.
3's in person.
Yeah.
4's
3's in person, yes, I'm sorry, yeah. Mixed these up.
I think 3 and 4 both need to be in person.
Okay.
They can go virtual after that, but I think sitting down with the public and Main Street and downtown and the whole group, they should be here for that.
Okay. So number 6, we're looking at virtual workshop number 2, proposed in February.
Yeah, that may get moved back then, right?
Oh, possibly, yes. But, I mean, if we're gonna meet in yeah,
If the first meeting's not gonna be till January 16th, then
right, we might,
unless they put the public meeting in right after that on the 23rd or something like that, but
okay. So the public forum, if I remember correctly, this is where we were gonna have the civic organizations present, or invite the civic organizations, Main
Yes.
Street, Chamber, and
yes.
residents, or whomever wants to. So that's gonna kind of be dictated on when those groups would be available to meet.
Right.
And if we think we're going to have more than 20 people, we possibly need to move it to the library or something. How would this group feel about having this meeting during the February meeting, the design review meeting in February? I mean, generally, if we have an agenda or two, we can get through those agenda items within a few minutes. And
Yeah.
then the rest of the meeting could be open to prospectus.
Sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
The intent is to.
And it wouldn't have to be fixed at 10 o'clock if other time, I mean, we could do it at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, probably.
That was the question, that some of these people
Right.
would be, a later meeting would be better.
Okay.
Remember, we've
Mhm.
talked about that.
Yeah, we just haven't reached out to the Main Street folks or the Chamber. You know, the advantage of having it during the day, during their regular business hours, they're at work. They could attend, but if they have other jobs, yeah, it would be better to have it in the evening. And obviously, we want as many people to be available as possible.
I would hope we could be flexible some and adjust to their needs too, so. I'd rather do it at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon when they can make it and have more people here than do it at 10 o'clock and only have a small turnout from them. I'd rather have more people present from Chamber and the others.
So what date are you looking then at for that February? What,
We're going to reach out to those organizations and see what,
you mentioned with our
Seems-
meeting though.
oh, well, so we would be.
That's on February 8th.
Okay. If we would start with February 8th and see if the other groups would be available February 8th.
Yeah. I won't be available, but that's, okay.
But there's a chance that we'll have to move it. Are you just that specific day you're not available, or that week?
I will be gone the first 2 weeks of February. 14th, I think I'll be back. That's-
And it might not work.
We've got to clear that date with prospectus also, so.
Correct, yeah.
Correct.
Prospectus and the other groups, potentially the library, if we're going to do it at the library, have a meeting at the library, regional planning, that group. We'll reach out to Prospectus and see what works and go from there. It's obviously not everyone is going to be available, I'm sure, but we'll do the best we can.
Okay. Anything else on prospectus? Okay. Public comment? Mayor, you have comments?
Happy holidays, everybody.
Oh, thank you. You too.
Thank you, Larry.
Rob Terrace, Ward 2 Councilman. I don't know if the Design Review Commission was informed about a letter from your former chair, Rick Foxley, about the plans for City Hall and the safety forces.
Yeah.
You have seen?
I forwarded it to them when he said, after he
Oh,
sent
okay.
it.
Yeah, I know, it was sent to council. So I was just curious, because we were first presented with the plans on Monday, and it didn't even dawn on me, but what is the role of the Design Review Commission in that planning? And I didn't read through Mr. Hawksley's, letter in any great detail, but I'm just wondering, how we intersect with our new plans and the fact that it's in the historic district.
Design review should review and bless the facade of the new building. Police and fire building, from the beginning, the discussion was there will be input from design review on the building that faces Main Street, but the buildings that are facing Clinton Street were not as imperative to have design review input.
Well, that was one of my questions, and of course, the previous discussion means whether or not that might change, right? But I think one of the issues was parking too, that was brought up in that letter. And I know we have a finite amount of space, so there are some concerns there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure this group was going to be well involved in that planning process.
Part of that, Rick's comments were typically downtown buildings sit,
Right,
on the right of way.
Main Street, right.
and in that section of Main Street, they don't. Once you get to the library, everything is set back. The house next to it is probably back 70 feet or 80 feet. And not parking in front means that you have the front facade, the front entry, and all the parking in the back, which means everyone has to enter through the rear of the building.
Right.
So if you have a reception desk and you're receiving people, but everyone's entering in the back of the building, that doesn't make sense. In our discussions with the city, it was move the building back so we can provide public parking in
On
the
Main-
front.
On Main Street.
Employee parking in the rear. We need a drive-through so that they can pay water bills and those types of things. That was first blush at the design. Rick had some comments about that, which is okay. That was just first blush, first pass.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that when the design build entity is selected, they have to follow that. That was done to be a guide. This is kind of what the city is looking for.
I realize it's really early, and everyone's just now seeing, the plans that were drawn up, and there may be revisions to.
Although, absolutely,
Yeah.
that
I-
wasn't gonna get built this way, not
Yeah.
100%.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that this body was, prominent in the planning process, because the last thing I would want is the city not to adhere to its own historic guidelines and expect residents to.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, that's good news.
I didn't get to finish the other night, I got cut off, and the whole discussion moved on. I wasn't even half finished with what I wanted to say.
Okay.
My intent of showing city council those drawings before Christmas was just that. Let's get in the newspaper, let's start talking about this. Let's start talking about the whole funding. And it didn't go that way, unfortunately. But
Yeah, I think, the fundamental problem was that most of us on city council thought that, other departments would be included in the planning. Now, it's on us that we didn't read the contract that you showed. I agree with that.
you, yeah,
But you know my comments. This is a big deal. This is something we don't do.
it
We
is.
do once in everyone's lifetime, and we gotta,
But we gotta start somewhere.
no, I agree.
And we got started. And unfortunately, there was folks that got emotional. And that's disappointing because the overall picture is positive.
Absolutely.
Fundable? I don't know. But that's what I try to explain to these folks. This is the process we have to go through to figure out, we gotta put a price tag to it. How do you put a price tag to it? You gotta start with the square footage. You gotta start with, what are you building? No, there's no water fountains inside this building, and there's certain things that we're not going to do because we know affordability is an issue. But this is the steps we have to do. And anyway, the disappointing part after listening to Monday night's meeting is we're probably 4 years away now from that attitude. We are easily 4 years away.
Well, yeah, that may very well be true, and that can be disappointing, but again, I just reiterate my feelings on it, is that this is a long-term planning, and if it takes 4 years to get it right, then that's what we should do. We shouldn't rush into something and then 10 years down the road realize, well, we should have done this from the beginning.
Parks alone could take you 3 to 4 years to design a facility, to decide where that facility should actually be located. Which property? We have 4 properties, but then there's also capital improvements elsewhere in the city for parks that are gonna pull from that same pot of gold. Where's the priorities?
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with any of that. I think
The safety building, the property was purchased for safety, period. There's nothing else to consider with regard to safety.
I don't disagree that the safety building and maybe City Hall are the 2 priorities. How far back Parks and Rec might be in the list of priorities is debatable, and it could be third, But whether it's on that site or someplace, well, I think it's a simple decision that if it's not on that site, we don't have to worry about that planning now. But the question is whether it should be on that site. That's the fundamental. Whether that takes 4 years, I don't know. I'm a little bit more optimistic it won't take that. Anyway, thank you.
But design review will have input on
Yeah.
the exterior for sure.
Exterior of both buildings?
No. Exterior of the building that faces Main Street.
Faces Main Street, because I was thinking that the buildings uptown, if they don't go all the way to Locust Lane, it's just that building, the front of that building and the side and the back of that building, but there's another building there and there's a space there, and that one goes to Locust or Maple Lane. that one isn't in the historic district at that point, correct?
Correct. So the
Okay.
code is specific, the buildings that face Main Street.
Okay.
So if there's use the Cimarron, for instance. Cimarron is historic, but the building behind it is not, because there's a separation.
Right.
I know they're separate parcels and they're separate owners, but it's just using that as an example. But then Riddle Block 9, that's one contiguous building. So those would be,
All the way to Locust.
all the way to Locust, that would be considered historic
Okay.
district review. I don't have anything else.
Okay. Now can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
We have a motion and a second by Eric. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Same sign? Okay, thank you for coming.
Understand.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you guys too. Are we all supposed